Hello, all, and welcome to another session of Pragati Vichar Literature Festival's Authors Marathon. Today, we are having a really wonderful guest and a really wonderful session waiting for you all. So, the theme for the session today is Words That Move Worlds, and the session name is Communication, Connection, and Growth. On the panel, we are having Smita, Aditi, and Mohanji. So, thank you all for joining us today. I'll just start with the introduction round first. So, first on the panel, we are having Aditi Gangwar, who is author of Through the Mind's Eye. So she is a young writer and poet whose debut through the mind's eye draws from her deep emotional intuition and passion for storytelling. She believes in the healing power of words and writes sincerely to inspire others to embrace their own feelings and stories. Thank you so much, Aditi ji, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Next on the panel, we are having Smita Das Jain, who is author of Leading with Words. So she is the founder and CEO of Empower Your Edge and is also a certified executive coach, three-time TEDx speaker, and an award-winning author. She is also an alumni of IIM Indore with 18 years of corporate leadership. She has guided Fortune 500 companies, appeared across national media, and her insights have been featured in the leading outlets from Forbes to the Times of India. Thank you so much, Smita, for joining us today.
My pleasure, Atishay. Thank you for inviting me as part of this panel.
Then next on the panel, we are having Mohan Joshi, who is author of Real Time Growth with Customer. He is a strategic advisor and master coach with over 30 years of leadership in pharma, packaging, and solar sectors. He partners with senior executives to drive growth and strategic transformation, blending practical business priorities with reflective coaching, and is known for the impactful real-time impact framework. Thank you so much, Mohanji, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, with that, let's start off with the discussion first. And my first question to all of you would be so, basically, each of your book in its own way explores how words have the power to influence, whether through comfort, inspire, or drive action. So, what do you believe gives words their true impact, emotion, clarity, or intent? Let's start with Mohanji first.
Okay. Uh, in our every interaction, whether with internal customers or external customers, your intent comes into play. People continuously judge what is your intent when you are talking to them. So, one part of talking to each other is showing emotions and getting emotionally connected, and then give information as much as possible so there is clarity. But really, I believe that intent is the invisible currency in B2B business, which my book talks about. And therefore, I give a lot of focus on the driver intent in my discussions with customers.
You were on mute, Atishay. So.
Yeah.
Aditi, your inputs on this, if you want to add.
So I completely agree with Mohanji. And if I had to choose, especially between the three, I would definitely pick intent as well. Because I think the reason behind whatever you're saying, it really shapes how people perceive it and how they feel it as well. Like you can write something that's very emotional or very like beautifully worded, but if it doesn't come from a real place or if it doesn't really mean something, it won't stick with people the same way that it will otherwise. And when I write and when I wrote Through the Mind's Eyes, I try to be honest about what I'm feeling or what I'm thinking, because I think that's exactly what gives words the weight that they deserve.
Smita ji, your thoughts on this?
That's a beautiful question, Atishay. And I must say that I have a different point of view from Mohanji and Aditi here. See, for me, words hold power largely when they carry all three: emotion, clarity, and intent in balance. See, emotion is what makes words human. It allows people to connect beyond logic, to feel seen, heard, understood. And emotion without clarity creates noise. So it is clarity. If we are clear in our thoughts, then we give direction to our emotions. Clarity helps your listener know not just how you feel, but what you mean. And last but definitely not the least, as my co panelist said, intent is that invisible core. It's the why behind the words. Two people can say the same sentence and create completely different outcomes because the intent, the why behind it is different. And in my book, Leading with Words, I often say that communication isn't about what you say, it's about what people take away. When your emotion makes them care, your clarity helps them understand, and your intent makes them trust, that's when words stop being sentences and start becoming signals of influence. So I truly believe the true impact of words lies not in how beautifully they are spoken, but in how deeply they connect.
Hmm. Very unique perspectives from all of you, indeed. So with that, I'll move to my next question. So, in today's fast-changing world of digital noise and short attention spans, what does authentic communication mean to you? And how can we keep our messages human and heartfelt? So, to be brief about this, so in the world of AI, which is basically where I can get a letter or a paragraph or even a blog written in just a few seconds, how do you keep your content or your communication authentic and human? So let's start with Aditi first.
Sure. So I think authentic communication, especially through writing, it means creating something that actually feels real, and that's what can often get blocked out because of AI. And there's so much content everywhere around us that people can tell when something is forced or it's written just for the sake of sounding deep. And I think what keeps a message human is obviously when it comes from a genuine emotion or genuine thought for something you actually believe in or something you have maybe personally experienced. And when I write and when I wrote through the mind's eyes, I tried to not think about how it will sound to others first. I just focused on expressing what feels true to me, and then later on I tried to shape it into something that others can hopefully relate to. And I think that honesty is what makes the writing feel real and more relatable, because if your words are honest and they come from a real place, then 100%, no matter how short or long they are, they will connect with people.
Hmm.
So
Smita, your
I
inputs into
agree with
this?
Aditi here, Atishay, that authentic communication comes from being true to yourself. If you are not resonating with what you write or speak, it's not going to resonate with anyone else. To add to that, I would also like to mention that in a world where everyone is trying to be heard, authenticity begins with the patience and courage to listen. So when I look at workplaces today, there's no shortages of messages, right? We have emails, presentations, pitches, we have meetings after meetings, but there's often a shortage of meaning. People speak to impress rather than to connect. Now, authentic communication for me is when your words and your energy are aligned. When you are not performing an answer, you are not saying something because you are rehearsed it, but because you are living it. It's about speaking from a place of awareness rather than autopilot. And one of my favorite principles from my book, Leading with Words, is clarity over cleverness. You don't need to sound perfect. So, Aditi spoke about being real and relatable. I want to add that you really don't need to be perfect to sound real. You just need to mean what you say. If we want our communication to remain human, we must bring back those pauses, the empathy, and the willingness to say, tell me more. Because ultimately, connection doesn't happen when we speak louder. It happens when we speak truer. And that is authentic communication, communicating to connect.
Hmm. Mohanji would love to hear from you as well.
Yeah. You see, in every interaction, customer wants to feel that he is seen by the person who is talking to him, and therefore giving respect to your readers or to the person who is listening to you is most important. As Aditi just now mentioned about pause, I feel that sometimes pause is the biggest communication you can have with anyone, because giving a pause shows respect for other person. And therefore in today's world people are flooding each other with lot of data, lot of charts, But what is really important to know that it is not volume of data or communication that you are having, but how well you try to understand other person and give reasons and logic to his expectations and give answer to what he is expecting. And this is, in my mind, very important. And once we respect that, automatically communication will be limited, data will be limited.
Hmm. A follow-up question to all of you from this word would be, so since the word AI popped up, so as like just leave out your respective careers. As an author, so how do you use AI? Like, you use it for your review, for your feedback, for your research, for your writing? How do you think the usage of AI? All of you can just tell one pro and con. So let's start with Mohanji only first.
Yeah. You see, AI definitely helps us to structure our thought process, because if we have some thought process, we can write in random, and AI helps us to give a structure. So I think AI's good utility is if you have good information that you can feed, then AI can give you structure and approach. So this is one, instead of doing multiple writing yourselves, editing and deleting, you can use data to correctly feed your information. Where AI cannot be used, if you are trying to generate ideas from AI, then you are definitely being guided by AI and you will have output which is more AI driven than your own thoughts.
Hmm.
And one area it definitely helps you in editing and fine tuning your document. So these are
Hmm.
some of the areas I feel AI is helping.
Definitely. Smita, your inputs into this.
Yeah. So I agree with Mohanji here. See, for me, okay, I've been using honestly AI quite a lot starting from 2022 when it came. As a writer and even otherwise in my work as a coach, I do feel it cuts down a lot on the research time. Now, something over a Google research and reading a lots of books which used to take me months earlier, now it takes me days. Something that used to take days now takes hours. And there are a whole host of AI tools where you can use to cross check facts. You get more, I would say, accurate numbers. So that is a big help. Another area where I found AI is useful is brainstorming. So not to generate ideas, where I agree with Mohanji that if you are like taking ideas from AI, then you are just being guided by it instead of using your own insights. But once you come with an idea, now there's a process. Like, there is a first draft, a second draft, there is an n number of drafts that I do before I submit my manuscript to a publisher. What AI does is once you have the first draft, that first idea, you can ask it to do a role play. And then it helps you to point out the cons, the weaknesses that you would have missed. So you can
Hmm.
fine tune your work to a greater effect before you share it with someone. That's where I
Hmm.
think it's of great use. A con is if you use AI too much, you lose your thinking path. Then something is asked to you, you lose your ability to think on the spot because you get so used to doing
Right.
taking inputs from the AI. So I would just caution against the overuse of AI is a tool. It's a good tool if you use it sparingly, rather than when you become dependent on it. Then you lose your creativity and then you lose your edge as a writer, because without your creativity you are just like any other person. You are not a writer in that case. So these are
Hmm.
my
Right.
views.
Aditi, your inputs into this.
I feel like AI, when it was, first introduced, it kind of started off as like a threat to writing, because when you're an author, it's about writing about your own emotions in your own words. But I think many people would abuse, the power of having AI in writing as an author, which could kind of undermine other people's capabilities. But at the same time, I'm a student. I am in 11th grade right now, and I am also working on writing another book, which is not poetry, so it's more about philosophy. And for that, it really helps me to brainstorm, as Miss Smita said, and but to the sense that I'm able to understand what to brainstorm upon. So my thoughts are still my own, but I'm able to get some guiding questions to help me out with that. And in my own book for Through the Mind's Eyes, I actually used AI for illustrations. And I know many artists are against using AI for, drawings,
Hmm.
but I thought that now that it is introduced so heavily into our lives, it's something that we need to learn to work with instead of, go against it. So therefore, in my book, all of my poems are accompanied with illustrations which are generated using AI. So yeah, that's how I think we need to work with AI in the future. We have to be careful with its use, but we need to kind of work it into our work as well, because it's a very helpful tool.
Definitely. Just to add on to this conversation, we all know the pros and the benefits of using AI. The biggest con would be it makes you lazy, and you don't want to do anything. Like you know that you can do this thing by yourself, but when by doing yourself, it might take 5 minutes, and with the AI, it will just take 1 minute. So yeah. So with that, let's move to the next question. So whether it's poetry, leadership, or business growth, all three of you explore relationships with oneself and the others, or with the customers. So how do you see empathy shaping those relationships in your respective fields? So let's start with Smita first.
Thank you for that question, Aditi, for bringing empathy into that conversation. This is, I would say, as a person, as an individual, as a professional, this is one of my favorite topics, empathy, which I believe is the language beneath language. As an executive and leadership coach, I see empathy as the bridge between connection and growth. See, without empathy, your communication, whether via spoken word or through your written communication, it is transactional. When you add empathy to your communication, it becomes transformational. When leaders communicate with empathy, they stop reacting and start responding. They stop trying to win arguments and start trying to build understanding, which is so, so important. And many have this misconception that empathy is about being nice or agreeing to someone all the time. No, it's not that. It's about being aware. It's the ability to read the room, notice what's not being said, and make space for perspectives that are different from yours. So, even in my own journey, first as a corporate professional and then as a coach, coaching other leaders, empathy has taught me that leadership communication isn't about having all the answers. It's about creating the safety for others to speak theirs, whether in business, whether in relationships, or like a general workplace situation. Empathy reminds us that communication isn't about transferring information, it's about honoring emotion. Unless you make others feel valued, unless you make others feel that even if we don't agree with you, we understand you, uh, they are not going to follow you. And that's where empathy comes into play, honoring others' emotions and making them feel valued.
Hmm. Very unique perspective indeed. Aditi, what would be your insights?
So I would say that empathy in writing, especially, it plays a huge role because it's what helps readers actually feel something when they read your work. So when I write poetry, as I said before, I don't just think about my own feelings. I try to imagine how others might connect with what I'm saying as well. So that's what I think turns personal writing into something that's more relatable and more universal. And at the time, I also need to realize that like being honest with my own experiences is what allows people to empathize with it in the first place. So when something feels real, readers can naturally start relating to it, so I've also noticed that empathy for me can also sometimes turn into pity, because when I'm young, and my poems are quite emotional, people often respond with sadness or surprise instead of understanding, which isn't really what I'm aiming for. So I don't write to kind of be pitied, but I write to express things that people might also be feeling, but maybe don't have the courage to say, or haven't gotten the chance to put it into words yet. So for me, that's what empathy in writing should be. It should be connection instead of sympathizing with people.
Hmm. Definitely. Moji, your insights.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, this is empathy is very interesting topic. In my book, Real Time Growth with Customers, I have three phases: diagnose, influence, grow. And each three phases has three drivers. And out of nine drivers, empathy is not one of them, because I feel that empathy is a connected driver with all other things that you want to achieve in business. So, first thing I tell people is empathy is not about agreeing. You don't have to agree with other person. But what empathy really means is you are showing logic and willingness to understand, to be in shoe of other person, making effort to understand what is going through his mind and what his requirements are. Now, coming back to empathy, I strongly believe and I advise people that empathy, understanding other person is not optional. Empathy is a prerequisite to be successful in business. And if you have correct understanding of empathy, this will build foundation of trust and credibility, which will lead to you to success. So, yeah, so that's my view on empathy.
Perfect then. So with that, we have talked about empathy, and now let's talk about self-awareness as well. So, across poetry, coaching, and strategy, your works emphasize reflection before action. So, why is self-awareness such a powerful starting point for connecting and growth? So let's start with Aditi first.
Sure. So I think, especially for my book, it is purely based on self awareness. And I think it really, really matters because if you don't understand yourself, it's very, very hard to connect with others. You might still be able to communicate, but it will not feel real. And for me, writing has always been a way to build onto that awareness. It helps me figure out what I'm feeling and why I'm feeling that. And when I take the time to reflect before expressing something into words in my book, I usually end up understanding both myself and people better as well. It's like you can't really empathize with others unless you know where you stand emotionally. And same with growth. I think growth also starts there because once you're aware of your strengths, your weaknesses, and your thoughts, you can actually find the things that you need to improve on or change. So without that understanding, you'll just be reacting on things instead of trying to learn from them. So for me, self awareness is kind of the base for everything. It's what makes communication and connection feel more real and at a deeper level than just at the surface.
Definitely. Mohanji, your input into this.
Yeah. Uh, Basically, awareness is really knowing what you want to achieve and what is really going through your mind. And once you are very clear about your goals and what you can offer, then you are in a better position to react or write or facilitate discussion or be part of any group. And therefore, awareness about your own limitations and strengths is very important. And then once you have all these things in place, then what outcome you want to have, because every awareness or every action has to lead towards outcome. So if you have clarity on your awareness and clarity on what outcome you want, then I think you are moving in the right direction.
Hmm. Smitaji, your input.
So, I believe self awareness is the quiet force that shapes every conversation we have with ourselves and with others. When I coach senior leaders, when I was writing Leading with Words, I often thought and often say that you can't influence outwardly until you are aligned inwardly. Unless you are clear, how will you make others see your point of view? Because communication mirrors who we are on the inside. Ultimately, it's our thoughts that we are articulating. So, if we are not aware of our thoughts, what will we articulate? And if we are unclear, our message will be unclear. If we are defensive, our tone will be defensive. Self awareness helps you pause before reacting. choose words with intention, and express yourself with authenticity. We have all spoken about authenticity a few minutes ago. In my book, Leading with Words, I talk about how presence precedes persuasion. You can't make people listen to you if you haven't first listened to yourself. So I would say yes, reflection before action matters because self awareness is where growth begins. And it's also where it's the place from where empathy is born. The more you understand yourself, the more space you have to understand others.
Hmm. Perfect then. So with that, we are moving towards the end of this discussion, and I'm having just one more individual questions for all of you, and then we will be wrapping up this particular session. So my first question is for Mohanji. So your work bridges business logic and emotional intelligence. So how do you personally define growth that is both real time and human centered?
Okay. Now, one thing or the one purpose for which I have written book, when we talk growth in the company and especially in the larger company, many times whole game is on numbers. How much we are growing, how much market share we are having, and it's a number driven game. And there I always bring in this perspective that growth happens with customers and you cannot create growth through slides and presentations, and therefore having interface with customer is very important. And therefore I bring in customer people involved within the customer setup, because finally it's people who are going to give you growth. And therefore
Right.
to achieve results, I always create a parallel route that results and relationship will go together. If you want to have results, relationships must improve. And most of the KPIs or metrics that we have in the company are related to business. There is no metrics which will show how is your relationship with people. And I try to build in this type of approach that if there is a good result, you must know for this result what relationship has really worked or not worked. So create some good tool where relationship can be mapped, because finally it is human connections that give you growth.
Hmm.
And therefore I have made my writing in two stages. First, I have come out with this book, Real Time Growth with Customers, where I bring customer in focus. But a second book, which will be released in next 1 month's time, is the dual mandate in B2B. Every business, this book focuses on B2B, but every business has dual mandate, that you have to give results and you have to give culture. Every senior leader is doing two things: driving results and shaping culture. And this is what I call the dual mandate which every leader has. And this book will be published in next 1 month's time. And I use this as a strong human connection to get momentum and growth within the company.
Perfect, sir. Wishing you all the best for your upcoming book launch, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
So with that, we are having the next question to Smita. So your book turns daily workplace challenges into teachable communication moments. So what is one real life situation from your own leadership journey that reshaped your understanding of effective communication?
So I have had many such moments, but since you've asked for one, there's this particular moment from my corporate tenure that I will never forget. So, as a strategy and management consultant, and when I was at the mid career level as an engagement manager, I led teams, and often I was the one who had to present the work output updates to client stakeholders. Most of them were very senior stakeholders. Now, for one particular complex project that entailed, working with stakeholders across 5 different geographies, I was part of a team that had done excellent work on the project because it was complicated. We had spent night outs, burned the midnight oil. We had a lot of evidences, facts, and figures, and right. I was the one who had put that into a structured presentation to be presented to leadership. So it was a big stake presentation, and we were excited. We were also nervous, but we were happily nervous because we had worked hard and we thought we had all facts and figures at our fingertips. Yet, when I gave that presentation, the response was lukewarm. I could sense it. So there was not engagement. People were nodding, but since there was no further question, I could sense that there, somewhere something was missed. And later, when I asked the client stakeholder, the chairman of the company, one on one, that what happened, everything was there, yet I got a sense that your team wasn't as engaged. What the feedback that he gave has actually stayed with me. He said that we could clearly see that you and your team did the work, but you didn't make us feel it. What we were saying is that, okay, you were doing your job, it's a part of your job, and you were narrating because you were supposed to do that, but you didn't seem invested while presenting what you were. There was, it seemed there was no personal enthusiasm and excitement. And that feedback changed the way I looked at communication. Until then, I believe data and competence spoke for themselves. And that day, I realized competence informs, but communication influences. And from there on, as a leader, I began focusing not just what I said, but how I said it, the structure, the tone, the pauses, the empathy, the emotional rhythm of a message mattered as much as the facts, figures, and stories that I was narrating. It helped me grow faster as a leader and eventually shape the foundation of leading with words. And that's the reason actually I wrote this book, because in my work as a coach, I realize day in and day out that people are good at what they do, but they aren't as good as articulating themselves. So leading with
Definitely.
words is meant as a bridge to help them realize that their growth doesn't depend only on performance, but on perception, which they can shape through their communication.
Definitely. This is highly relatable to, when you're presenting an idea to someone. I mean, like, you're super duper excited about it and it's not that well received by them. So yeah, definitely there's a, disconnect between the how you present versus how you thought. Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Smita, for such a wonderful explanation. So now let's move for the last day of this particular session, last question of this particular session, to Aditi. So your writing reflects both vulnerability and strength. As a young writer, how do you balance the urge to express deeply personal emotions with the fear of exposure that comes with publishing them?
So honestly, that's something I've always thought about. Writing for me, it started off as something which was really private. So I started writing when I was maybe, the second I learned how to write, and I never imagined that other people will get to read it. It was just a way of putting my emotions into words, especially when I couldn't explain them out loud or didn't want to explain them out loud. And in a way, writing, it became this little safe space where I could just be completely honest with myself. But then came the opportunity to actually write a book, which was because of actually a school project that was coming. And when I started working on Through the Mind's Eyes, it hit me that I'd be sharing with like that same honesty with so many strangers. And honestly, it was really scary. And these were the moments where I started hesitating, and I was wondering if, I was saying too much, or if people would judge what I felt, or maybe they won't relate to it as I expect them to. But I also realized that the poems I was most nervous to include were actually the ones that people ended up relating with the most, because it made me see that vulnerability, it's not a weakness, it's actually what creates that connection, because others feel it as well. We're not alone in this. But even then, it wasn't easy. There's always this little fear of being misunderstood, or having people read into things that weren't meant to be interpreted that way. Even though it's their perspective, they're allowed to, look at your poems how they want to. But I want them to be understood the way I'm putting them out. But I've learned that once you put your work out there, it doesn't just belong to you anymore. because readers, they will see it through their own emotions and through their own experiences. And that's exactly what makes writing so powerful. It changes based on whoever's reading it. So now I try to find a balance. I don't share every single thing I feel. I did take away some of the poems that I put in my book originally so that, I feel more comfortable sharing them, because some emotions, they're just too personal or they're too raw to put out into the world. But I do try to write from a place that is honest, even if it gets uncomfortable. And I think everyone has felt things such as loneliness or confusion or self doubt at some point. And when I write about those emotions, it's not just about me anymore, it's about expressing something that's universal. So, vulnerability, it only feels scary until someone tells you that, oh, I felt that as well. And that one moment of connection, it makes all the fear completely worth it.
Hmm. Such a powerful anecdote. So with that, we are at the end of our discussion. Any part of a message that you would like to, give to the reader, your fellow writer, or the audience? Now would be the perfect time. Let's start with Smita first.
Okay, great. I would like to leave those who are listening to us today with this one sentence: treat every word as an act of leadership. Because words are not fillers between thoughts, they are the bridges between people. In boardrooms, in classrooms, even in families, trust isn't built by big speeches, it's built by small, consistent words of clarity, empathy, and respect. If your words can make someone feel seen, they will also make you someone worth following. And so, as I wrote in Leading with Words, you don't lead by speaking more, you lead by speaking better with presence, purpose, and heart. And if each of us did that a little more often, our words truly could move words.
Thank you so much, Smita, for joining us. Aditi, anything you would like to give a message to the readers?
I would just like to say that I think words, they matter a lot more than we often give them credit for. Like, they can make people, as Smita said, they can make people feel understood and supported, and they can also change how they see themselves. So we as authors need to be responsible about what we're putting out, because people can get influenced by them quite easily. And it's not about, using complicated language or like big ideas to make an impact. It's just about being honest, and those simple words, they reach people the most. And I think it's about being real when you speak or write, because if it comes from a genuine place, they'll 100%, they'll mean something to someone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mohanji, anything you would
Yeah,
like to
yeah.
add?
Uh, I feel that words have tremendous power to convince, and I always take example from a shop like Chroma, where we go to buy mobile phone or consumer durables. Typically, salesperson there will give lot of technical specifications which buyer doesn't understand. And this is one common problem, that people want to talk, not bothered whether other person is enjoying that or is understanding that. So first power, I say, when you are talking, how you are connecting with people, that is very important, that your word should carry connection. Then what you say can be limited in words, but it must bring value to person who is listening. And if you are connecting, if your words are creating value, I am sure you will have outcome which is favorable for both the parties. And therefore, use words judiciously and give information that is required and understood by other party. So this is message I want to give, how you can change outcome by using less words, listening more, and connecting.
Thank you so much, Mohanji, and thank you so much to all of you for joining us today and sharing your valuable insights with me and the audience. I, personally learned a lot from all of you, and would hope definitely, for future collaborations as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.